Welcome back to the City Ramble. Adam Booker, Matt Kerr joining me, Amos Murphy. Adam, it was a winning weekend for Manchester City. Another winning weekend. We're starting to get into a little bit of a groove. Did you enjoy yourself? Did you enjoy the game?
I did. Yeah, I did. I'm not an international break kind of guy. It's slow at work and it's just slow in everyday life. So it's good to have domestic action back. And yeah, we've been, I think very positive about City this season on this podcast. I know there are plenty of doom mongerers online, but I think the fact that City are unbeaten in, I want to say seven now,
Eight, I
eight,
believe.
eight after the
At
weekend, and maybe not a single one of those eight games has been a complete 90-minute performance. I think is you could spin that to be a negative, of
mm,
course, but I think it's just like wholeheartedly positive to feel like that when this team gets really clicking and they can play the way they play for 40 minutes at a time, for 80 minutes at a time, that there's a whole nother level for this team, and that's very exciting. So, I think it's very much the mark of champions to be picking up results even when you're not absolutely at your best for 90 minutes. So I'm flying high at the moment when it comes to City.
yeah, absolutely. If you're looking for that match day reaction, me and Joe Olivier did the deep dive into the match itself. That is up on podcast feeds and YouTube as well. Matt, Adam's totally right in my opinion, because we spoke about this with Joe a little bit, saying why would you want you, like in this case, I assume most, if not every single person listening to this is a City fan. Why would you not want City to be sort of going through the motions a little bit? Basically, why would you want City to be doing perfect performances in October? If City, and fingers crossed, we are able to sort of maintain a title challenge and can get to a position where this is capable. I'm not saying this will be the case yet, but if City do go on and win the league title this season, no one's going to remember that counter attack where Beto nearly scored for Everton, or no one's going to remember that sort of Iliman Ndiaye cross that nearly resulted into a goal, because City got the 3 points, and that's what's going to matter in May should City, be competing for the title.
Yeah, very very true. But I think for a lot of people, last season's still very fresh. I think we started the season okay last year. Don't get me wrong, I don't think we were quite treble year levels, but I think we started decent. It was only when we hit November where we really got down in the dumps and it was really really tough. So I think that's why it's easy for us to say we're still winning games, but that's why it's worth noting that these things aren't quite always perfect, because we've seen that it can develop into bigger issues, like we saw last season. So that's all I'd say on that, to be honest.
Mm. I'd push back a little bit, and I'd say I think in some of the games that we saw City last season, I know it's doing a lot of remembering, and it is
Yeah.
like a year on, and almost every single person has forcibly removed those memories from their brain. There were moments in those games last season. Southampton at home springs to mind, where City win 1-0, and I think it was a sort of
That's
very
true.
similar performance. So similar way the game played out, in that it was an Erling Haaland goal. City kept a clean sheet, but Southampton were like, they looked really good. Obviously, they weren't really good because we know they were one of the worst Prem teams of all time, but City made them look really good. For me, Matt, I'll give you the chance to sort of respond because I called you out there a little bit. Like, yes, of course, it was a little bit shaky in the first half, but we've seen title-winning teams sort of maybe struggle to get going in the first 25 minutes. What I found so impressive was that second half was so controlled, relatively speaking. Obviously, again, comparing it to last season, not 22, 23, etc., etc.
Mhm.
And they did what they needed to do, not only to win the game, but win it comfortably, and probably, bar Haaland sort of having a 5-minute brain fart, would have been going away with 3 or 4 goals.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, listen, I'm not complaining. I'm more speaking on what the outside world looking in would probably be saying about City. I'm very pleased of how we've turned it around post the last international break. I
Mm.
think it's been really positive, and I know you guys have spoken about it in the last few episodes. But this over reliance on Haaland, the goals need to be spread out a little bit more for me. I'm only going to feel more comfortable then, I think, when I'm seeing Savinho pop up with a goal, Foden pop up with a
Mm.
goal, Reinders pop up with a goal. Because at the moment, it does feel very much like, don't get me wrong, we're very lucky we've got Erling Haaland, but that over reliance, I just don't
Yeah, it
see
can't
that.
go on forever.
It can't go on forever. It can't go on forever. Similar, not too similar actually, but you know how Liverpool, they were getting away with these last minute winners. It's never going to carry on. You can't ride your luck like that in the Premier League in football. So hopefully tomorrow night we're gonna see a couple of other goal scorers. But listen, I wouldn't complain if it's an Erling Haaland hat trick in there. I would not complain.
No, you'd have to be a sicko to be complaining about that. But point taken, and Guardiola spoke about this in his post-match press conference. What I will say, Adam, I can't not agree with what Matt's saying there because it is obviously true. City need goals from elsewhere. I said this a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember after what game it was. I mean, take your pick because I think Haaland scored every goal pretty much bar 2 or 3 for the last month. But it was something along the lines of, yeah, of course, you can say that. And it is true. It absolutely is true. I want to see how City's attack works when Haaland isn't in there because, okay, maybe he has an off day, but we've seen history suggests that he might have one off day in every 50 matches. If you create the chances, more often than not, he will score them. It's about creating those chances, which in the past has been an issue when Haaland's just been a passenger. If you take Haaland out of that team and still nobody's looking like they're coming close to scoring, panic stations, because that's an issue. But if, you go to a false 9 or Marmoush is playing a little bit more, well, I was going to say a little bit more off the shoulder, but we've seen City happy to let balls over the top to Haaland. But you get the gist. Maybe then that's where we see the goals popping up because I do genuinely think City and Guardiola have created this system now where it is funneled to service the best striker in the world. And why wouldn't you have that when he scores at such a rate?
I think that's true, but I think if you also look back at the game against Everton at the weekend, there were plenty of chances that fell to the likes of Doku and Savinho, and they just didn't take them. So I would be totally in line with you there if all of the chances were falling to Erling Haaland and that's it. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. There are chances for other players. I think this game against Villarreal is really interesting because I think it's a really good chance to maybe experiment with that and try and get a little bit more out of the attack. And especially, as you mentioned, Omar Marmoush, I think, is the sort of X factor in all of this because he's certainly somebody that was brought into somebody that can play in different roles and be on the pitch at the same time as Erling Haaland and score the goals while also being a like-for-like replacement. I mean, no one's really like-for-like for Erling Haaland, but position-wise, being a like-for-like replacement for him. So I wonder if against Villarreal, we maybe see Marmoush and Cherki both in the team, just because we know they're players that maybe have a little bit more cutting edge. The little bit that we've seen from Ryan Cherki, he's somebody that if he has a little space on the edge of the box, he has no trouble burying the ball into the bottom corner. But yeah, it's frustrating. I think it's just the nature of the squad that City have built at the moment is there's nobody really the drop off from the sort of clinical, almost veteran-like ruthlessness of Erling Haaland, even though he is still very much young. He's been putting the ball in the back of the net since he was about 15.
Younger.
Yeah,
probably.
Exactly. There is such a drop-off to the next guy, and I think Marmoush is probably the next guy, but even one level below that when it gets to Savinho and Doku, who are still very much players that are developing, I think you're going to have these issues when the squad is built like that, and I'm not necessarily having a go necessarily at Cheeky Bergerstein or anybody like that. I think it's still a tremendous squad, but it's no secret that you don't have a Riyad Mahrez in the team who may not start every game, but he's still going to get you 30-odd goals in all competitions most seasons. You don't have a Gabriel Jesus who may not start every game. He'll still get you 20-plus goals in all competitions. So, I don't know. I agree with you. It would be really interesting to see like a month of no Erling Haaland. Now, I have absolutely no desire to see that in any way, shape, or form.
Touch wood.
If it were to happen, I'd be very curious because it's like, how much do they actually systemically change? Do they just stick Marmoush in and try and do the exact same thing? Or does Phil Foden drop into a false 9 and things look completely different? We don't really know. But yeah, I think on the whole, I think there are chances for other players. I just think they're not taking them.
Yeah. Matt, I just want to sort of, before we dig deeper into Villarreal chat, I want to ask about the general sort of situation where City find themselves. We are 8 matches in, and congratulations to Arsenal, who have somehow managed to secure the league title in mid-October, or as you would be led to believe. What is it, 30 matches, or is it 8 matches in, or 9 matches. Pretty sure it's 8, isn't it?
8, I
That
think,
sounds
yeah.
That sounds about right. So 30 matches left to play. There was some. I'm not going to sort of, because I was amongst them who said that could very much see City winning the league title this season, primarily because it didn't feel like there was any sort of runaway contender. I maintain that if Arsenal get serious, and for Arsenal to get serious, God knows what would have to occur, what sort of tectonic plates would have to shift. But even still, I maintain if they can get serious, they can win the league by Christmas. I think it is in their capability to go on a proper run where they don't drop points in about 12, 13, 14 matches. Anyway, what do you make of City? Because obviously they've moved up to second. Liverpool losing to Man United, that Liverpool super team, who again, to be fair, won the league in August. So we're on for our third champions if City can jump them. But what do you make of City's chances? What do you make of City so far in terms of the wider context, not just performance-wise, etc.?
Sure, yeah. I mean, like I touched on before, since the last international, not the one just gone, the one before that, we've come on leaps and bounds. I think some players have really, really grown into the team. Like Nico O'Reilly, I think he's having a huge influence the way we're playing at the moment. Going in defence, going forward, he's got it all, that lad. Obviously we saw him getting that assist against Everton, unbelievable cross, and that's without our new summer signing, Aït-Nouri, who we were all excited to see, and Nico stepped in his place. But yeah, in a broader scale, I think we're doing everything right. Like Adam touched on before, the performances don't have to be perfect at this stage of the season. We're winning games. We've got a real run now. We've got good momentum. Was it undefeated in 8 games, all competitions? So yeah, I'm feeling good. I mean, I think the interesting one's going to be Liverpool at the end of this next block of fixtures. I think that's going to be really telling to who's the real title competitor with Arsenal. I think obviously Liverpool are having a huge slump at the moment.
It's a shame that Liverpool game isn't this weekend, because obviously City they've just had 4 defeats in a row. I think they're away to Frankfurt in midweek, and you would averages would suggest at some point they get a result, whatever. But this a little bit earlier, because it is right at the end of this next block of fixtures, and it would have just been nice if it was just slotted in a little bit earlier.
I know. Pardon the pun, slot.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, but listen, I mean, Liverpool probably will be back to winning ways by then, but I think even still, they're much more of a wounded animal than we've seen them for a couple of years, especially, compared to last season. I don't know the exact stats and whatever, but I'm pretty sure they didn't have a run like this last season, no way. So it's, we can get at them, definitely. And I think that, like I say, that game's going to be very telling, and it'll be, if we can beat Liverpool at the Etihad, I think that'll be a massive message to Arsenal that we're still there, still breathing down their neck. And ultimately, that's where they normally come unstuck, isn't it? When it gets to crunch time, someone's breathing down their neck and they just capitulate. And I strongly do believe that will happen again. Right now, Arsenal are obviously my favourites because they're top, but I back us. I've seen this story play out too many times to not back City in this title race. So yeah, we're going to win it.
It would be incredibly funny, Adam, if City won everything they have won, seeing off Jurgen Klopp, won a treble, a Champions League in there as well, of course, 4 in a row, first team ever to do it, go on a historic nosedive, still manage to rebuild, get top 4, then go and win the Premier League title before Mikel Arteta gets his hands on it. That would possibly be the funniest situation and outcome that I can remember, bar maybe, touch wood, fingers crossed, 1-1-5 verdict going in City's way.
Yeah, it's crazy. I saw you guys may have just mentioned this. I was reading work emails, I won't lie. I did see that now Ruben Amorim has won at both Anfield and at the Etihad before Mikel Arteta, which is just
that's crazy,
absolutely unbelievable. But yeah, it's interesting.
He's won at Anfield with fans before Pep, which is concerning.
That's another thing.
Worrying. Yeah,
that is another thing. Yeah, but Amorim doesn't have the laundry list of achievements that you just read off. So, yeah, it is interesting, the shifting sands of which of the 3 teams. Actually, it will always be worse to see United win anything. They're a devil in their own. But between Liverpool and Arsenal, the shifting sands of what would be worse. And I think we're all comfortable with Liverpool winning league titles now. It's a thing they do every once in a while now, and we're all comfortable with it. But Arsenal getting their hands on any sort of legitimate silverware just seems like something that we can't live through. For me, as a non-Englishman, it's like seeing England win a World Cup or a European championship. Like, I don't think the world would have gone on if they'd won that game at Wembley against Italy all those years ago. So, but yeah, there's many things I would do to avoid Arsenal winning a title. I think I've talked about selling my car on here.
There was talk of a limb
Stefan
or
Ortega, perhaps
an organ, but Stefan Ortega still a Manchester City player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think this has been brought up yet on this podcast. What's he doing?
God, no.
It's you know what? I feel for him. I do actually feel for him on a serious note.
I'm the totally opposite. He had plenty of opportunities to leave. I think Sunderland were looking at him, Burnley were looking at him. Sod him.
Okay, all right. Let's say the best offers weren't on the table, which, you know, you reel them names out. Let's be honest, not the most appealing to go to Burnley, is it?
Maybe.
When you're approaching, what is he? He's probably approaching his mid-30s now, isn't he? He's probably 32, 33. He wants a decent move. Come on, guys. I wouldn't see Ortega out of place on Bayern Munich's bench, for example. I think he's a top keeper, can be a number 2 at any top club. So let's say that's the way it played out. I feel for him because, you know, not only is James Trafford coming the door, he's probably gone, okay, right, yeah, Eddie's going, yeah, going to get at least the cup minutes here. Next minute, obviously, James Trafford probably would have been shook as well, but Donnarumma walks through the door, he's thinking, and Bettinelli, he's probably behind Bettinelli now.
I think he is.
So
I think he is.
I just feel like he's just wasting. Don't get me wrong, it might be his fault, like you say, but he's just wasting a good year of his career, unless he goes in January.
Amos, you know this better than anybody. About once a year, and pre-COVID, it'd be more than once a year. I'll just kind of move my life to Manchester for like 3 weeks, and you know, I'll work from a hotel and stuff, and hang out with you and go to matches and stuff. Because I love to just, you know, do nothing and gallivant around the city. And he's doing it while on what, 100K a week?
Yeah,
75K a week. I mean, it's a great life. It's a great life. I don't blame him at all.
City, you've got a few of those. Calvin Phillips. Maybe they're just trying to like garner the juju of the 22-23 season again and like just have it lingering in the background. Maybe that's the idea. I think, Matt, just to wrap up this part in terms of obviously City, the position they're in, are you sort of where are you obviously shared trepidations, in fact, at the beginning of this segment about, okay, but this time last year we were doing okay and the wheels fell off. What percentage in terms of worried / optimistic, where are you at? Are you more optimistic than worried, or do you still sort of, you maybe 50-50? I don't know, where in terms of sort of City over the last couple of weeks.
No, I'm way more optimistic. I was probably being a bit over the top there, but I think
you had a bad start to the week. Has it been a grumpy Monday?
You know what? I had a very long drive on the M56.
Oh,
so if it's anything, it's
define very long drive.
Manchester should have been half an hour. It took 2.5 hours. Wasn't fun. But anyway,
all right, that's a long time. Never mind.
We're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about the boys in blue. I'm happy with how City are doing. I am, but I truly do look at that Liverpool game, and I think that's going to be the real telling point of how our trajectory goes this season. You know, convincing win against Liverpool. Sky's the limit for what we can do, for confidence, for the performance and where we'd be in the table as well. Breathing down Arsenal's neck, like I say. Have a bad result there, it can go one or two ways. It could nowhere near is it going to be anything like last year, but I'd just say that's the game I'm looking at, and I think that'll be the real telling point.